from PG Council PTA, and we're grateful that we could put on this event for everybody to be here, and I'm so glad there's such a great turnout. If there's more people that come in, there are more chairs, and they're back there, so kind of squeeze in and let people sit, or like raise your hand and say something to me. But thanks for being here. We are recording this, and we will have it posted, a YouTube link posted afterwards. So, I mean, this is a lot of people here. It's a great turnout, but obviously this is not everybody that lives in Lindon and PG south of 200. So you have a lot of neighbors that aren't here tonight. So make sure you're sharing that link and kind of letting them know what you think after hearing from all the candidates tonight, because we all want everybody to be informed as they vote. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, because we are recording it, please put your phones on mute or quiet or something, just so they're not going off and we can have a good recording for everybody to have. And this right here, our moderator tonight, we have obviously our candidates. We're grateful to hear. We give a round of applause for our candidates. Thank you. They've dedicated hours and hours just for campaigning so far, but towards making an amazing new school district. So we're very grateful for them. And our moderator tonight is Terry McCabe. She's from the Provo School Board. So everybody give her a round of applause. And I hate talking, so I'm going to give her the mic. Thanks for being here.
All right, I want to thank the PTA and the City of Lindon for putting this on. This is great. We want to also thank the candidates and for being willing to create a new school district, and let's get to know them. All right, each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, 1 minute to answer the questions, and 1 minute to summarize. And Shannon, who's going to be our timer, due to time limits, we may not be able to address every question that was submitted, but candidates will be available at their booths afterwards, so you can ask that question to them. All right, so we're going to go in order here, starting with Erica. Okay, Mayor, pick a number between 1 and 11. Okay. Okay. Ready? Hey, Erica, 2 minutes, go.
All right, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Erica Thomas, and I am a resident here in Lindon. I've been married for 14 years, a mom to 5. I bring a unique and strong perspective as a school board member. As an educator for 18 years, I have been on a school board before, so I understand the roles and responsibilities and have the skills to get our school district off to a great start. Having worked at the Utah State Board of Education's office, I have a strong policy background, collaboration, communication. I oversaw a budget of over $100 million that went to all 121 districts and charter schools in the state and worked with all the district and charter school leadership. I supported the building capacity of leaders and continue that in my role in Alpine as a literacy specialist, and work with principals, teachers, instructional coaches. And that's why I'm here, is I want what's best for students. I want to support all of our students and believe that all students can be successful and learn at high levels. I want to work for a district, be part of the school board of a district where students are at the focus and our teachers are supported. I will ensure our district is fiscally responsible and efficient with logistics and operations. As your school board member, I will represent you and be open and to listening, and I will be that community voice to the district. My voice is your voice, and I am here to work with all of you to work together to build the best district that we can.
Good evening, my name is John T. Gadd. The T stands for Thomas, but it should stand for thrifty because that's what I'm all about. My wife and I bought our home in Pleasant Grove 25 years ago, and we love this community. It's been a great place to raise our family. My background is in law and as a business owner. I spent most of my career solving difficult problems for huge companies, and then also as a business owner helping to run a company. I see the school district as an essential part of our community, but it is essentially a large business. It's going to be one of the biggest employers in North Utah County, just as the current school district is. And so I bring a background that I think is really important for a school board. It's important to have the perspective of teachers and educators. That's absolutely an important perspective. But if a school board only has that perspective and it doesn't have the perspective of business people, there's going to be a lot of mistakes made, and that's what's happened with our current school district. I know what it's like to make payroll every 2 weeks. I know what it's like to postpone my own paycheck so that the staff and the employees of the business get paid. I know what it's like to have a multi-million-dollar budget and live within that budget. And that's essentially the role of a school board. School board members don't teach any student anything. Teachers do that, and we have great teachers who are going to teach the students and give them a great education. But what we need on the school board is people who have a business background and who can make good business decisions so that we use taxpayer dollars wisely. My main focus is to stop the runaway taxes. The current school board has voted to raise our taxes 12 times in the last 7 years. That's ridiculous. That needs to stop. I also want to cut all wasteful spending, and I also want to focus on teaching. Thank you.
My name is Wendy Cope, and I'm really excited to be here. I have kind of a nervous excitement energy. I'm honored to run as a candidate for Seat 2. Seat 2 covers all of Lindon and the south part of Pleasant Grove. I bring passion, commitment, and a deep love for education because I've lived it every day for the last 16 years in our district. I've listened to many of you, parents, teachers, community members, and I've understood and heard your hopes and dreams for our district. I've also heard concerns. I promise to be a listening ear and a collaborator, and I promise to help be a problem solver, not a problem causer. In a time of change and transition, our schools need steady leadership. I believe my experience in the classroom gives me a grounding and a practical perspective that our board needs. I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much.
Hi, my name is Alicia Alba. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces out there. I have lived in northern Utah County almost my whole life, and I've been in Lindon for about a decade. I graduated from BYU with a teaching degree, and I also got my master's degree also in education, and I am currently serving as a teacher at a school just here in Lindon. I have 5 kids that are in the public schools here. I've got kids at Rocky Mountain, Oak Canyon, Timpanogos, and PG High School, and I live, just like I said, across the street here from Lindon Elementary. This is kind of my neck of the woods. So I feel really connected to our community and really grateful for the opportunity to be here. As my kids all got to school, I got really involved in advocacy within our district, and in that role I was able to make some big differences for our community, like including things like keeping Lindon Elementary open, helping to make sure that we had an avenue in our the new legislation that was written for our district reconfiguration, so that we can have that opportunity to get our needs met even sooner than later. So I have a lot of great relationships with our legislators, with USBE members, and again with people throughout the community. One of my really big goals as a school board member will be to make sure that every single voice in our community feels heard, feels valued, and feels like you can make a difference in what is happening in our district. I'm very excited for the future of our district. I think that we've got some wonderful resources here, most especially the people who are here. I know that we're really invested and supportive of education, and I think that there's going to be some wonderful, great things in our future that we'll be able to build essentially what's called a destination district, where people are going to be wanting to come here because we'll be able to have things like small schools, small class sizes, strong programs, and we'll be able to do it in a fiscally responsible way, and I've got a lot of real solid ideas for how to make that happen. So thank you, I'm so glad to be here.
Hi, my name's Jen Lyman. My husband and I have lived here for 19 years. I have 5 children, and they attend schools in Alpine School District, Valley View, then Central, Oak Canyon, and PG High School. 3 of my kids have graduated. 2 are at BYU currently, and I have 1 that's on a mission in Guatemala. I graduated from BYU in business management, and I worked in banking and in insurance before having kids.
I've been involved in service in our schools and our community since we moved here, and I value the relationships that I've made in that process of serving. I have served in the PTA in various capacities, mostly as a treasurer. That was my go-to position. And most recently, I was asked to be the leadership VP at the region for PTA. I have been on school community councils at each of the schools that my kids have attended, and I was most recently the chair at PG High School and Okie Canyon. I also served on the district community council from 2018 until 2024 when that program was disbanded. I am also currently the treasurer of Choose Kindness PG, which is an awesome program. I'm running because I believe I have a unique set of talents, experiences, and relationships that have prepared me to help with this monumental task of laying the foundation of our new district.
All right, the first question goes to Erica. How will you ensure that all students have access to high quality instruction?
All right, so that is one of my top priorities. We have great teachers in our schools already. In my current role as a literacy specialist, I have had the opportunity to research some of those best instructional practices and to be able to support teachers with those. As a school board member, we will create policy around curriculum and instruction. That is how we support teachers in the classroom. We will also support them by prioritizing instructional needs of our students in our budget. And that's what I plan to do. I have children who have attended and are attending Dan Peterson. And that is a priority for me. I've also had students in our dual immersion programs, have children who have been in lots of various programs, and that's a priority for me when we are looking at that budget as a school board.
So, school board members don't teach students, teachers do. So what a school board can do to help make sure our students get a quality education is support teachers and give them all the resources and funding and pay them fairly and make sure that they have everything they need. So the way we can do that is we can make sure that we focus on teaching and we don't focus on all the other things that come in a bloated school district. So in our current school district, last year, 55 administrators made more money than the governor of the state of Utah. Administering their tiny little sliver of Alpine School District, they were paid more than the governor who administers the entire state. That bloated, unnecessary bureaucracy has to go away. That's the role of a school board. It's super important that that we push those wasted funds. We have a minimal administration and a maximum teaching, and that we push those funds down to teachers.
So I have 3 pillars in my campaign, and one of them is having a well-rounded education. And I feel strongly about that. And in addition to that, emphasizing the arts, specialties, CTEs. I think these are the areas. I'm currently a computer science specialist. Last year I taught at Grove Crest Elementary in Pleasant Grove. And these are the areas where kids really gain those skills. So that's my first pillar. My second pillar is teacher supports. I feel like supporting teachers, like John said, is super important because our teachers are the core of the school. And I want to have quality professional development, and I want the teachers to teach this. Perhaps the principal can send out a survey and see what the teachers' needs are, and then the teachers can teach the professional development. I'm also very interested in community outreach. And community outreach, the way that this will help quality education.
Okay, so as an educator, differentiated instruction is something that I'm a huge fan about. It's something that I experience in my classroom every day. In the school I'm at, I'm actually teaching at a Montessori school where we have 1st through 5th grade all in the same classroom. So you can guess that we have some pretty diverse needs. And that is just a microcosm of what happens in a district. District-wide, you're going to have people who are going to need extra supports. You're also going to need people who need more enriching activities. And so one of the roles of the school board is to make sure that that structure is in place, that we have a strong district leadership team with a strong vision, that our teachers have the support and the resources that they need in order to succeed, and that our parents are valued as community partners, and also that our community is brought in as valued partners so that they can make a difference right within our classrooms. There are ways, I just want to say really quick, I have a daughter who actually had a chance to work in a lab this last year as a CTE credit, even though it's not anything to do with the classroom. But anyways, I'll finish that story later. But it was really great. We should partner with our communities.
I believe we need to have quality teachers in our schools. They are the ones that are with our students. And so we need to provide a competitive pay for them. We're going to be competing with 2 other districts for good quality staff, for our administrators, the superintendent, all of our district staff, and our teachers. And so I think first and foremost, that's what we need to focus on. We need to be able to pay our teachers a living wage and continue to fund step and lane increases. That was a problem when the Jordan Canyon split happened, is that was put on hold. And so I believe firmly in paying our teachers. I also want to come into this process with a whole district point of view and focusing on every student in our district and getting them the best education that they can get, and not hyper-focusing or being myopic in just one area. And so yeah, that's what I would do.
All right, John, how would you improve mental health resources for students?
I don't know. I think that the school district already provides some counseling for students. I'm not sure how to improve that. What I would improve is I would focus on making sure that we don't have runaway taxes. Like I said, here's a chart. There was 12, they voted 12 times to raise our taxes in the last 7 years. Our school district's gonna have plenty of money to educate every student and give them a great education without any more tax increases. These tax increases are killing families with young kids, people with disabilities who live on disability income, seniors who live on Social Security. The taxes are out of control. It's really important that we spend the money that we have wisely and not continually raise taxes.
Mental health is a huge concern in our schools, especially with COVID. It drew a lot of kids in. Wearing masks caused children some issues and teachers struggling. I feel like our mental health in our district needs to be a priority. We have amazing counselors. We have amazing resources for our kids. And I want to make sure that those counselors feel supported, that they have areas where they can go to seek out professional development. And I just want to make sure that there's a lot of communication within our school systems, that kids have a place to go and that they feel safe, and as well that our teachers and administrators feel the same way.
Awesome. Yeah, so mental health resources. If you look back at like the hierarchy of needs that we have, we can't learn if we are not feeling like we're in a safe place. So there's a variety of different ways that this comes into play. Our staff are right there to support them, both their classroom teachers as well as the specialized staff that we have within our schools, so our counselors, our nurses. So obviously we need to keep making sure that they are supported, that they're able to have the tools and the resources and the trainings that they need in order to succeed. Then there's also the community partner piece. We've got, PG Cares, Lindon Cares, other partners that are right there helping to be able to support what's going on in the classroom so that every child has a supportive environment where they can focus on their work, which is the work of learning.
Along with, as Alicia mentioned, partnering, I would continue to foster partnerships with our community organizations, Choose Kindness, PG Cares, Lindon Cares, and any others that are out there that can help our students with this mental health. It's hard for teachers. I think teachers feel a lot of times They are everything to these students as far as being a nurse, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and that's really hard. I would advocate the state for more funding for school counselors in our elementary schools. Times have changed, especially since COVID. We're seeing a lot more behavior issues and just mental health issues at the elementary school level. So I would advocate, I think ASD currently has a half a counselor for every elementary school. I would advocate that we need a counselor per elementary school and advocate for that funding. And then secondary schools, we need social workers. Counselors are focused more on schedules and getting them ready for college and post-college stuff. So yeah, social workers in our secondary schools.
All right, currently there are some great things in place in ASD that are supporting teachers with supporting students with mental health. There are, I can think my own daughter's teacher taught her so many great skills that helped her with being able to regroup when she was feeling overwhelmed. When we lost our son last year, it was great counselors at Oak Canyon that wrapped their arms around my daughter, and the great community at Dan Peterson wrapped their arms around us. That's what we need to continue in our new school district. It is our parents, it is our community, and we will continue as a school board member. Our priorities, what we can do as a board is to set the policies and to prioritize the mental health awareness within the budget and to continue to foster that outreach to our partners.
Okay, Wendy, what specific actions will you take to support teachers and address teacher and support staff retention in the new school district?
So this goes back to one of my 3 pillars, and that is teacher supports. Being a teacher, I know what it feels like to be supported by a principal, administrator. So I really value when my principal reaches out and I feel supported. I feel like one of the biggest things for a teacher is to feel valued. And with my second pillar being feeling supported, I feel like quality professional development is super valuable. Like I mentioned before, I want to have our teachers teach that professional development. I think that's super important. That's where we come together as a school and we meet and we learn from one another. And I also want to support competitive pay for teachers. I know because I'm in it, I hear a lot of whispers of, well, I'm going to go where I get paid the most. You know, now that we have all these district options, I'm going to go where we get paid the most. So I'm supporting competitive teacher pay, and I believe that'll help with retention.
So along with the competitive pay that has been mentioned by several candidates, I also think that we need to make sure that we're providing everybody with a really optimal environment, that they have the support staff, that they have the aides, that they have the small class sizes, that they have the district leadership, all of those things in place that they're really going to need. There needs to be, listen to our teachers, what do they want? I know that collaboration is a really big piece right now that a lot of teachers are benefiting from, so that's something that I would want to make sure that we're continuing to support and just really listening to them. They know what they need and we need to be sure that we're listening. One other piece is I want to make sure that we have some flexible options for our teachers. I know some teachers want to be able to work full-time, but some teachers want to work part-time, and I think that we should open up more opportunities for that. There is going to be a lot of competition between the different districts for good teachers, and so I think we need to just make sure that we're really, really competitive in making sure that they have the support that they need financially as well as far as the people go so that they can succeed.
Yeah, I think we all are in agreement here as far as teacher compensation. Like I said, I would like to continue to fund the step and lane increases, so as our teachers are getting more education, that they are compensated for that. Also, a concern for me is the benefits that our teachers get, not only retirement, but also health insurance. That is, it was one of the best thing about being the wife of an educator was the great insurance, and as we all know, insurance costs just keep going up. And so I want to find ways that we can provide good benefits as well for our teachers. I think that will help with that competition that we're going to be experiencing and teacher retention. Also the PLCs, I think that ASD has done a good job creating those professional learning communities to help with collaboration and giving our teachers the support that they need.
If a teacher doesn't feel supported in their first 3 years of teaching, they will leave the profession. We have to support our teachers, not only financially with competitive wages, benefits, we have to support them with that support staff, with fostering that community, that parent support. There are multiple layers that go into a teacher feeling supported and being able to teach that optimal high quality learning happening in their classroom. As a school board member, the way that we can support teachers is through prioritizing our budgets back towards the classroom, and we can build policy that supports our teachers and our students to have that, to be supported and to have that optimal learning environment.
So the way that we can support teachers is to focus on them and teaching, because that's the main job of the school district. And one of the ways that we can do that is we can push resources. We can stop wasting money and push that money down to teachers and teaching resources. One example is extravagant school buildings. As you drive around the current district and look at these crystal palaces that are being thrown up and called schools with 3-story glass atriums and 3-story glass entryways, those cost a lot more than a standard school. I went K through 12 in 1-story buildings, and I never once said, man, if I just had a 3-story glass entryway, I could get a better education, because I didn't care about the building. I cared about my friends and my activities and my teachers. School buildings don't inspire and educate students. Great teachers do. And so let's make sure that instead of building crystal palaces, let's take that money that we're wasting on crystal palaces and let's push it down to what matters most, great teaching.
Okay, Alicia, what is your plan to ensure schools are safe and secure, including implementation of panic alert systems and school resource officers or armed guardians?
Okay. When my brain heard safe and secure, the first thing I thought about was actually our seismic needs. So we do have several schools in our area that have seismic needs, and the state has mandated that we need to be seismic free by 2033. So I have there's some grant opportunities out there and other things for making those needs get met. As far as the security within our schools, I think it's super important that we have great relationships, officers that have relationships with all of the students and staff within a school. We've been really blessed with Officer Campbell at our school. I know he's at several of the schools nearby. So I think we need to foster that. I know we've also been working really hard to make sure that we have front entries that have secure access so that parents are buzzed in, and so you've got, who's in the building and you don't have anybody in there who's not supposed to be in there. And then just following best practices for safety and security in schools. There's a lot in that piece.
Okay, so there was a bill passed in 2024 legislative session that mandated our schools having a panic alert. That would mean, your older grandparents or parents, and they have the life alert, and so that was mandated. I don't know the status of they were supposed to do it by July 1st, 2025. I don't know how well ASD has done that. There was some funding attached to that as well to the schools, and so I would need to look into where that funding has gone and what it's been used for. The other thing that they mandated was guardians in every school that were carrying a weapon, and these people weren't to be paid. A $500 stipend was all, and they were supposed to volunteer their time. Needless to say, the schools haven't been able to find these guardians. So I love the student resource officers that we have. They've helped with the culture that we've got at Oak Canyon. We've got Officer Campbell and Officer Ruiz at PGHS. So I would foster that continued collaboration with our cities, with our SROs.
To follow with that, it was HB 84 that the Senate put in place in the 2024 Senate that also created a needs assessment that has to be filled out by district and school every year. And attached to that school and safety and security assessment, it establishes a school and safety security director that follows through with the training of principals and filling out that needs assessment. There's also grants attached to that bill that director would fill out to continue to provide that safety and security. So as a school board, the first thing that we do is we look at those needs assessment. We build policy around safety and security. And then as a district, we hire that safety and security director that will be their purpose is to ensure that our schools are safe. Safety has to be our priority, and then we teach. We are all about learning.
So I think that the schools are already doing a pretty good job of making sure that students are safe. The idea of seismic safety was brought up, and I want to address that. Politicians are really good at trying to scare you into giving up your money or your freedom, and seismic is one of the big lies. You might remember in Pleasant Grove 10-ish years ago, they said our city hall's falling down, it's going to fall in an earthquake, we need a new city hall. So they built one. Guess what? The old city hall's still being used. There's still employees in there. If it was really going to fall down, why are they still using it? And that's exactly what Alpine School District has been doing with the seismic. They're saying all our school's going to fall down, all the students are going to die. But I'm very suspicious of that. Schools that were built in the last 10, 20, 30 years are not going to fall down in an earthquake. So I think that we as taxpayers and as responsible citizens need to use our common sense, and we need to get some structural engineers in there, and they need to take a long, hard look and see if there's not things that we can do to keep our buildings safe without tearing them down all the time and rebuilding brand new buildings, because that's super costly and it's devastating for taxes.
So there'll be 7 board members. We have 4 cities, Orem, Lindon, Pleasant Grove, and Vineyard. There'll be 7 board members. And as we collaborate as a board, I imagine one of the first things that we'll do is create policies. And as Erica mentioned, policies surrounding safety. It's essential that our kids are safe. That's a priority. I really believe that most of our principals are doing their monthly fire drills. And I believe also that we do have some buildings that have seismic issues. And those will need to be assessed. And we'll need to decide which ones are priorities, and just as John mentioned, which ones we don't really need to focus on.
Okay, Jen, many educators have felt that their voice has not been heard through this process. How will you engage with parents and educators when making decisions?
Can I clarify a process? What process are we talking about? The split?
It does not say. I did not write this question.
Okay. So, I think it's vital, it's important to listen to our teachers and our administrators. They are in it day in and day out, and they know what is going on in our schools. I think listening to our stakeholders as well, the parents that are involved at the school, anytime we're gonna make any major decisions. I know the district has committees, they have volunteer committees for a lot of things, calendaring, the materials, sensitive materials stuff. And so I would love for our district to have these committees composed of administrators, teachers, parents, so their voices can be heard in any major decisions that we're making. It's also fiscally responsible because we don't have to pay them.
When I was on the school board previously, when we lived in Arizona, the way that I reached out to our parents and our teachers was by holding those kind of town hall meetings, by being accessible and available and responding effectively through email communication, and providing that voice and that opportunity for parents, teachers, students, community members to be heard. As a school board member, our priority and our job is to be the voice of the community to the district. And so I will continue to foster that collaboration with teachers, parents, community members, students, by listening, by being open and available, and being that voice for our community on our school board.
So I think if we can be responsive to teachers by getting rid of lots of layers of bureaucracy and making sure that they can reach out to the people who they need to reach out to. So this is our current Alpine School District leadership team. You can see the superintendent up there and 8 sub-superintendents. So the superintendent who made $367,000 last year of our tax dollars has 8 sub-superintendents between him and teachers. And there's a whole bunch of other layers of bureaucracy too. So one idea I have is that instead of building an ivory tower, brand new sparkly district office, let's use a lot of this unused space in a lot of these smaller schools where we have unused space because the enrollment's been decreasing dramatically. Here's another chart of our enrollment decreasing over the last 8 years. And let's put all of our district offices in those schools. Let's have all of our district employees go to work in neighborhood schools. That'll save all kinds of money from building a new, and we're already paying for those schools, and that way they'll be rubbing shoulders with teachers. They'll be more accessible.
So I believe open lines of communication is huge. As I've gone out into the community and met many of you, I've been able to have personal conversations with each of you, and I've taken note of the feedback and the concerns, and I've written it down, and I promise if elected, I will be a liaison between our community and our district, and I will listen and I will advocate. I am a teacher, so I know the importance of being heard and listened to, and I'm excited to hear the things that you're excited about, and I'm also ready to hear the concerns.
Open lines of communication is definitely very important. Having lots of different structures in place, whether it's committees, surveys, feedback button on the website, there needs to be opportunities for people to be heard. Even more than that, I think that it's important for people to know that the words that they say, the ideas that they share matter, that somebody is listening to them intently, and even if the decisions don't always go the way that they want, I think that they need to understand that they have somebody in their corner, that they have somebody who is looking out for them and who is willing to stand up and advocate and be there, be the person that they need to have there. I've worked really, really hard in our community to try to make sure that everybody's voice matters, that everybody can have a say in different things. I actually sacrificed a lot last year to that very cause, trying to make sure that we would be able to have a voice. And it's something that it matters a lot to me, and I will continue to advocate for.
Okay, this next question, I feel like I need to clarify for the audience if you don't know what this means. If ALL stands for the Gifted and Talented Program, and DLI is Dual Language Immersion. So some of the kids learn Spanish half the day and English half the day. Okay, Erica. What are your views on special programs like ALL and DLI?
Special programs are at the heart of student opportunities to engage in high quality education. And so as a school board member, what we need to do is we need to look at the programs that we currently have and how do we continue to support them to continue to grow and be stronger. How do we provide opportunities for all students to have access to those great programs, DLI, ALL, and including the other opportunities, our special school that would be similar to Dan Peterson, our CTE classes, building out partnerships within the community and with the universities in order to continue to grow those programs should be and is a priority for me. And as a school board, we can build policy and budget alignment for those programs.
So the programs you mentioned, I support. Language learning is super important. We need to have resources for kids who are advanced and need advanced education. There's also a lot of other programs in the school district that I don't support. And those are what I call the woke nonsense programs. DEI, gender ideology, extremism. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's being crammed down the throats of students, teachers, staff in the Alpine School District that has to end. Our own president of the school board, Julie King, pushed a scholarship that's been running the last few years, including this last year, that's called an inclusive scholarship. And basically, it favors you if you're female, or if you're part of the gender ideology crowd, or if your skin is not white. So it's basically telling all the students, the straight white males in the district, all those students, you're second-class citizens. So, yeah, should we have special programs? Yeah, but we need to make sure that they're not the woke nonsense special programs.
I support DLI and ALL programs. I think they're super important. And as Erica mentioned, they're at the heart of our schools. These are skills that kids learn and help them for a lifetime. I feel like learning a language increases capacity, it increases a child's ability to relate and understand other cultures. I feel like ALL extends and supports education in a way that helps children grow in different areas of their lives, not just practical, but theoretical. And I think the important thing is to make these a priority, and for me it is.
So my family's been able to benefit from DLI and ALL programs really from the beginning of our educational experience. It's actually what drew us to our public schools. Without those programs, we may not have come here, which actually, so I very strongly support DLI and ALL. I also very strongly support making sure that the rest of the school is not being neglected at the expense of those programs. And I feel like we need to make sure that there's equitable access, that there is a nearby program. When we first started, we had to drive 30 minutes round trip every time we wanted to come to the school. So I think we need to make sure that those are distributed around in a way that lots of people can access them. As a teacher myself in a non-public school, I know that that is one of the #1 reasons why parents are choosing our schools, is because of excellent quality programs like these that really help expand the learning opportunities that are available to our kids.
My kids didn't do ALL or DLI, so I don't have a lot of experience with those programs myself, but as I've been going around and talking to individuals, I've come to understand the importance of this, especially in attracting and keeping parents and families in our public schools. The other thing that I've learned is the importance of strengthening our neighborhood schools and having a general ed population that can host an extension program. So that would be my focus, is to create really strong neighborhood schools that we can then add these extension ALL, DLI. I would love it if we were a destination district and each elementary campus had some type of extension program. Then you have students who maybe for economical reasons they can't drive, their parents can't drive them to a different school. Something would be available for our high achieving learners at every single school.
All right, John, how would you build productive working relationships with fellow board members?
It's a good question. So I think what I would do is I would try to lay out hard facts and data and try to persuade them that it's important that we stick to conservative principles, traditional values. I think a lot of times in public education, unfortunately, because our universities have been overrun by woke nonsense, that tends to filter over into our public schools, even though our community is quite conservative and quite traditional and quite religious. But I would see my role as trying to represent the community, or at least the majority of the community, in traditional conservative principles, and I would do my best to persuade my fellow board members that that's the way the new Timpanogos School Board should govern, from a worldview of traditional conservative principles.
So we talk a lot about transparency with the community, with people that we're around, our neighbors. I think it's important to be transparent with our board members and to be a bridge, not a barrier. I think having a collaborative board is essential. If it's not, it leaks down all the way down into the classrooms. So I've spent 16 years on district collaborative teams and in the classroom, collaborative teams at a classroom level. And being respectful, listening and contributing is so important. So I value that. I know what it's like when it's not happening, and I think it's important to make that a priority as a new collaborative board.
Thanks. I would add to that there's a principle called unified diversity. And it's essentially that diversity is a huge strength. Having different opinions is actually one of the things, that's why we have a board, it's not just one person. Because the different ideas that we have is what makes us strong. And then being able to find the common ground, build on that, being able to find a unified purpose, unified goal, being able to press forward together, I think is got to be the ideal for our district as we're working together and as our board is established. I've been really excited already. We've been able to start building bridges. The candidates across our area have already started coming together, connecting with each other, getting to know each other, and starting to build some of those bridges. I'm very passionate about bridge building and making sure that the culture that we have in our district is one that's supportive, one that's unifying, and one that keeps the focus on our parents, teachers, and students.
You need to come into a board with an expectation of respect and trust for the other members. That is critical. There is a need for us to police ourselves as a board, to set some norms and policies that will help govern us as a board to be able to be respectful and to message as a board, not as our individual our individual ideas or for our areas. We need to come together as a whole board and message that to one another, to the community. I'm very passionate about this, that we need to come in we need to recognize that each person has a lived experience. They're coming at this process from their own life and their own experience, and you need to respect that and not push your agenda. We have 3 seats that aren't quorum seats, so if we come into this and pushing our agenda, then we could get shut down. I want to come in looking at the district as a whole.
As a board member, building relationships with other board members is critical. It's building that trust. It's honoring the experiences that the other board members bring to the table. We want to hear all voices. And our voice, my voice, would be the voice of Lindon and South PG, and bringing your voices to the other board members. When I look at what I've done in the past with building relationships with parents, other teachers, school board members, state legislatures, when we're looking at that, it's building trust, it's getting to know them, it's honoring their experiences, and it's helping to know what is their communication preference. And bringing all of that to the table to build those bridges and to come to that common goal of what's best for our students to creating the best district in Utah.
All right, Wendy. A school board creates policies that also go hand in hand with the Utah State Board of Education. How do you plan to develop these policies?
I imagine we will adopt some of the Alpine School District policies. I feel like there's a solid set of policies that we already have. One thing that's wonderful is we get to now have more local control. So we have these 4 strong cities, and we get to take these cities and decide what reflects the values of our community. So that's one of the things I'm really excited about, is that foundational piece of building a new district, creating those policies that match our people.
So for fun, I just finished listening to the last 2 years of all the school board meetings that they've had, and there are definitely processes in place for going through and changing policies. When we do begin as a district, we will start with the current policies that ASD has, and we'll have the opportunity then as a board to go through and make sure that those are tailored to match our unique needs here in our area, that we can build on the strengths of the Alpine School District and the great heritage that we get from there, but that we can then make it even more connected to what matters to us, what our values are, and what we want for our children and for our future.
I believe the question was about state school board, and we need to collaborate with them and be aware of the curriculum that the processes and curriculum that they are setting forth to be taught in our schools. A lot of the curriculum decisions are made at the state, And so, of course, we need to be aware of that and be able to tailor what we're doing for our district to meet those standards that they have set. So I think relationships, as in all things, relationships are important. So I would foster collaborative relationships with our state school board members, all of them, not just the ones representing our area, but each and every one of them.
When we're looking at building policy as a school board, we do have parameters. If we think about a sandbox, a part of that parameter is going to be federal funding and federal laws. The other part of the parameter is state laws and state funding. A perimeter around the inside of that box is our state school board laws and rules. So then we get to, as a school district, decide the policies within those parameters. And we absolutely want to collaborate with the community members and our local school board members, our state school board members, and we want to be an advocate at the state and legislature and the state school board levels. It's also really important for me that our community members know what's going on at the state level and at the school level, being a part of the creation of those policies. Putting a plug in right now, our math standards are up for review as a state. They want parent feedback. Got a link on my Facebook page for that. But we can and should be involved with policy and those standards throughout.
So the answer is we should develop our own policies. The way that policies are currently developed is they're developed by a secretive organization called the Utah School Boards Association. They're developed without any public input, in back rooms. There's no open and public meetings. The Utah School Boards Association is the Utah chapter of the National School Boards Association. Remember during COVID when it came out that they were going to start prosecuting mothers and grandmothers who showed up at school board meetings as domestic terrorists? Remember that? That was the National School Boards Association. Look it up, Google it. There's all kinds of awesome articles about it. So our Utah chapter of this corrupt national organization develops all these policies, and then they push them down to the school boards, and then they just have an up or down vote without any discussion. That's the wrong way to develop policy. Here's one of the policies they pushed on our school district. It's the transgender students policy. It says that if your child chooses to be transgender, keep that a secret from the parents of the child. Don't let the parents know. That is a current policy in Alpine School District that was developed by the Utah School Boards Association. That's the wrong way to develop policy. We need to come up with our own policies. Thank you.
Alicia, what specific criteria would you use to determine whether the superintendent is the right leader for the new school district?
This is a great question. I really loved the opportunity that I had to be able to connect with lots of different leaders in our area and really consider what makes a good leader a good leader. And I think that we need to make sure that we've got somebody who has a really strong vision of excellence, that they're able to bring together a lot of different voices and be able to communicate both top down as well as bottom to the top, be able to have that drive, that passion, and because they're going to set the tone for our district. And so that's one of the first decisions that we're going to be making as a school board, is going through the process of choosing who our superintendent, who our business administrator will be. And so we just need to make sure that we're looking for somebody who is very qualified and who has that vision and that drive and that experience that's going to set us down a right path.
I would appreciate if we could find a superintendent who has some experience in the classroom, who isn't just been in administration. I think that that's important too, as you're leading a group of people. I would look for a superintendent who is a talent magnet, who is the type of leader and individual that has the charisma that encourages people to be attracted to that person. And then someone that will set a mission, vision, values, and goals for our district. Set the path for how we're going to achieve excellence in education.
When we're looking at the process of hiring a superintendent, I want the community to be involved. And then as we are looking for that candidate, the things that I would be looking for is that educational experience, having that experience in the classroom, but not only experience, a proven track record of student success. We want them to be a visionary leader who also is a collaborator and an effective communicator. That is a dynamic leader that builds the capacity of the leaders around them. They're helping to steer our ship or to steer our district, and they're going to build the leaders around them. And then it's our job, after we've hired it, to evaluate them. And we can fire a superintendent if they're not meeting our needs. And so I think it's really important that we as a school board, we listen to the needs of our parents, we look for that ideal candidate, and then we continue to evaluate, are they meeting the needs of our district?
So the answer is we should pick our own superintendent. The way it currently works is the Utah School Boards Association, this corrupt, secretive organization, goes out and they do all the screening and they pick a pool of candidates, and then they hand the candidates that they filtered out to school boards. That's how almost every one of the 41 school boards in Utah does it right now. We shouldn't go through them. They don't represent our community's values. We should pick our own superintendent who's honest, who's hardworking, who's lawful. Many of us in the school district have experienced having leadership in the district who's not willing to obey basic transparency laws. Utah's Freedom of Information Act, it's called GRAMA. Utah's Open and Public Meetings Act, OPMA. Those are flouted at the current school district. It's so hard to get records for parents and for students. It's so hard to get this current school board to comply with the Open and Public Meetings Act. There's all kinds of secret meetings happening in back rooms that should not be happening. So we need a superintendent who's going to obey the law.
I too want the community to be involved in this effort. Does the superintendent have leadership experience? Can they build and lead strong teams? Are they creative problem solvers? A quote that I love from The Multiplier Effect, it's one of my favorite books about leadership. The best leaders are not the ones who know everything, but those who help others unlock what they know. Good leaders foster capability in others rather than keeping power centralized.
Okay, last question, Jen. I've heard one solution is to move 6th grade to junior high and 9th grade to high schools. Will this solve any problems? I didn't write it. The I've is not me. I've heard that's
Okay.
not me.
Yeah, so that was something, so we went to this presentation, I think most of us here were at a presentation given by Jason Sundberg and Superintendent Farnsworth, as that is one option that we have, is to change. I didn't hear the option of putting 6th grade into junior high. The 9th graders, putting the 9th graders into high school is something that has been floated, and then that would free up, if we were to do that, we could close a junior high and then have 7th and 8th in junior high. So I didn't know about the 6th grade. I have talked to a 6th grade teacher who likes that idea. She came from California. And so I think that, I mean, it's up for discussion. I would first want to talk to the stakeholders, our principals, our teachers, our parents, involved parents, and see if that would work for them.
So we know that we're going to have to be creative with our budget. We know that there is, if we leave things as are, what Jason Summer reported at that meeting is we could potentially have a $20 million deficit in 5 years if we just keep everything the same. So one of those ideas floated around is potentially moving 9th grade, potentially moving 6th grade. What that does, what that does is it helps to centralize our programming and support all of our schools to have stronger programs, so there's less spread with the different types of programs within the schools. That's just one, that's one solution, that potential to, as we're looking at how do we balance the budget. But there's lots of other things that we can do too to make sure that our students are in that optimal, high quality learning environment.
So here's a chart of the last 8 years. This is all of the high schools, the 4 high schools that will be in our new school district, plus all the junior highs and elementary schools that feed into those high schools. So this is our enrollment for this district had it existed over the last 8 years. And as you can see, we have a problem. Enrollment is dropping. And I just don't see, based on demographics, smaller families, expensive houses, I don't see that changing. We're gonna have fewer and fewer students, and we're gonna have to deal with that. One of the ways that we might deal with it is shifting around grades. but I don't see that as a big solution to the problem. One thing that we need to understand is that we're going to have rising tax revenue from property taxes over that time. So we'll actually have more money per student over time. But if it's spent wisely, that means we don't have to keep raising our property taxes. We can either keep spending the same amount per student, or we can actually lower our property taxes and keep spending the same amount per student, or we can spend more per student by just accepting the higher taxes that are coming in.
So as we enter this new district split next July, it's essential that we are fiscally responsible, that we do everything that we can so that our taxes aren't raised and so that our people are happy that way. I have heard this as an option, shifting around grades, possibly moving 9th grade into high school. I do agree with Eric on this, that it is one solution that could possibly save money and help with budget issues.
So I've actually spent a lot of time diving into this data. I've got spreadsheets galore where I've looked at our schools with their different capacities, with our feeder systems, what it would look like if we aligned those, what it would look like if we were to move 9th grade up, and exactly what that would look like as far as filling the capacities of our high schools. If we move 6th grade up, it kind of has a trickle-down effect. The sky's the limit. We are going to be able to choose here in our area how we want things to be. And if we want 9th grade to move into the high schools, I think we're going to be able to make that happen. We need to make sure that we're making our decisions based on the data that we have available, not only on enrollments and capacities, but also on the finances, how those will be affected. I do think that our demographics are actually not decreasing in our area. They are increasing, even though there's less kids. There are so many people moving to our area that there are more kids here than there used to be. And we can draw those back to our schools with excellent opportunities in our education and with stability in our district.
Did you want to? Okay.
I started.
Sorry, thank you. Okay. Now you get 1 minute to convince everyone to vote for you. And we're going to start with Jen and go this way.
All right. Okay, thank you guys for taking time to be here tonight. As I've listened to the other candidates, it is clear that each person up here has a passion for public education. So I want to share something that sets me apart, and that's relationships. Relationships built on mutual trust and respect that I have developed over years of interactions and service to our schools and community. People know they can trust me to step in and help when there is a need, and I am often the person friends call when they need a better understanding or clarification on candidates or issues, especially those regarding schools. I will be able to help attract great district leadership as I am known for being kind and respectful to others. I will come into this role with the desire to build unity and collaborate with other board members to craft a culture of excellence in our new district. If you want to check out my website, I have a list of parents, educators, and community leaders that I've already established relationships with.
So one of the unique things that I bring to the table is that I am a tireless advocate for our area. As I mentioned before, I dive into data, I make sure I thoroughly understand issues, that I thoroughly understand what the situation is that I'm looking at, and that I really come up with some creative solutions and options, and then listen to the people who are going to be affected so that they can make sure that their voices are heard. This is something I've done repeatedly, and it's something that I will continue to do. I also come with a balanced perspective as both a parent and a teacher, and as somebody who's lived in our community for a long time. And I've shown that I care about our community and that I am invested in making sure that this district succeeds. I really am excited. I think that this is a great opportunity and that we need to have somebody here who is going to really dive in and advocate for us. We're going to need to, as we're going through this split process, somebody who's going to make sure that they stand up for our area and for the things that we're going to need.
I bring a combination of real classroom experience, leadership skills, and a deep understanding of the diverse needs in our schools. I have extensive educational experience through coaching, classroom teaching, and overseeing programs at a district level. I have expertise in multilingual teaching strategies with a strong background in ESL. We will have the most Title I schools in our district. in the South District. I've also been a part of a lot of collaborative leadership teams. I worked on many professional development teams over the years. If elected, I will serve with integrity, transparency, and a true commitment to putting our students and teachers first. Our community deserves a strong voice, one who understands education from the inside out, and I'm ready to be that voice.
So I think we need more people with business experience on our school boards. We have a lot of great perspectives from the classroom, but school boards don't teach students. They run a huge business. My top priority is to stop the runaway tax increases. Voting to raise our taxes 12 times in 7 years is crazy. I will never vote to raise our property taxes, ever. I believe I am the only candidate who will make that promise. I would love to be mistaken on that, but as I look at the other candidates' websites, I see a lot of talk about budget deficits and bonding is just taking out debt in our name. We don't need that. We'll have plenty of money to do a great job educating every student, to compensate all of our teachers without going into any more debt, without raising our taxes. That's my top priority. I think with my business background, we can avoid some of the financial blunders that the current school district has run into repeatedly. Thank you.
First, I want to thank PG Council PTA for this great event and all of you for coming. We have a great community that shows up for our children. My life motto has been to leave the world a better place. This has driven every decision that I have made in my career. I look for and seek ways to make our educational system better and stronger. I am the strongest candidate because of my knowledge, skills, and experiences and proven track record to get our district off to a great start. As a teacher in my first year, my students at the end of the year had 84% proficiency in math and 92% proficiency in literacy, and it only went up from there. As an instructional coach, I was able to support a teacher going from 45% engagement to 100% engagement in just 5 weeks. I was creative when I was at the Utah State Board of Education, innovative by creating the first ever competency-based hybrid endorsement for teachers. As a school board member, I will collaborate with the community members on the best policies and supports for our students and teachers. I know what it takes for student success. Vote Erica Thomas on August 12th.
All right, let's give a huge another clap to all the candidates. Thanks for participating. And good luck to all of you, the voters. You have 5 people to decide. Who do you pick, right? Remember, ballots are due August 12th by 8 p.m. The closest ballot box is at the Lindon City offices, and the Lindon Community Center here will also be a voting center on election day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And also, if you wrote a question, good job. If you're the person who wrote the RDA question, please come talk to me, because that was really awesome. And everyone travel home safely.